Notification volume 0%.
Good afternoon, and welcome to M.M.E. I am your host, Blind Prime, and for today we are going to be covering Studio Series 86 Ironhide in his robot mode. Here he is. He is a Voyager class, as opposed to the previous Ironhides we have gotten, which I have those guys right here. We have the Crosshairs, and he as the Ironhide mold from the Siege line, and we have the Shattered Glass Ratchet here as the Ironhide mold from Earthrise. We got them all lined up here, and we're going to talk about like the differences between these three molds and pros and cons and things like that. Because if we're going to talk about one Ironhide, might as well talk about all the Ironhides. I do the same whenever I bring up like Seekers and stuff like that. So let's discuss the Ironhide mold, and we'll do like little comparisons real quick. So size comparisons between the Ironhide mold from Studio Series 86 and Siege. So let's go ahead and remove that. All right. Siege's backpack is definitely taller, and well, they're actually about the same height. Seems like Ironhide may be a smidge taller. Let's flip them on side by side. The shoulders on the Siege version are definitely bigger guys, and they have nice siege ports on the sides. Ironhide shoulders are a bit more rounded and have no siege ports, sadly. But here we go. So it seems like the Crosshair shoulder is Ironhide. Lower your hand. I can't do any proper size comparisons like that. Yeah. Crosshair's shoulder, the Siege Ironhide mold shoulder is taller than the Voyager Ironhide, and now let's see about the Earthrise version. Now the Earthrise version is right here, and Earthrise version is definitely a bit different, but it still has the big shoulders, okay? We're going to put them back to back, and we get that the Ironhide and the Ratchet from Earthrise are actually about the same height as well. There's not much difference in the heights going on here, though there is plenty of difference in the mold. For one, with this Siege mold, you had the little weird tetrahedron spot on this big front windshield that he has his body. You get this weird spot underneath it that it's just kind of a gappy, but it works pretty well, and it's pretty flat. It does poke out a bit, and that's a bit of a shame. But then you come over here to the Earthrise one, and this one pokes out a bit further. It makes this weird, like he's got a beer belly. And I really appreciate that for Ratchet, because Ratchet's he's a doctor with a belly, which is kind of funny. You do get those doctors that got beer bellies, and so that kind of works. But it goes out pretty far. This guy's got a very clean backpack, and that's just because it's all in the front. He's got this big front area that sticks out decently far. Somebody, a reviewer, called it a tetrahedron gut, and I agree, it's a tetrahedron gut, though it's more of a triangle. You draw a straight line down, yeah, it's a triangle. It's a triangle gut. It's an isosceles triangle. Yes. There's no three sides, no two sides are the exact same length. That's cool. Is that isosceles? Where it's all weird? It's just a triangle that has different lengths on every side. Anyway, that's that. So we're going to put these guys off to the side. We're going to talk about Ironhide, and we'll bring them back in occasionally during the video. But I wanted to bring up those sizes and do the comparisons. Now we finally come to Ironhide here, and though he's got that little bit of a gut that sticks out, what they did different is instead of having the front of the car become a point, where that led to the tetrahedron pointy bit, and actually rounds upwards. So instead you get a nice rounded core section, and that feels more like what it looked like in the show. That is quite excellent. They did a good job fixing that problem. Now, let's go ahead and cover what I'd like to cover first in all of these videos, or at least when I remember to, because sometimes I forget, is siege ports. So he's got one in each of his hands. He has none on his back, and he has none on his feet. This is a first. We don't have siege ports for Ironhide. Now, what Ironhide does have are ports to plug his weapons in, and he's got two on his back, and he's got two on the backs of his legs. I think the backs of the legs ones are cool. So, for instance, he's got the back of the leg there. You can go ahead and plug the weapon into it. Right? Just plug that weapon in. Now, he's standing there. That can come out, and he can grab it with his hand just by going down. I think that's neat. You can do that. That's cool. Um, and I know it requires untransforming it a bit, but that's still a neat little trick that you can do with the leg holsters, as I call them. And then on his back, he's also got these bits. So what you do is you put the gun with the handle facing outwards, because there's not enough space if both handles are facing inwards. Though, here's coolness. Okay, so turn him around. All right, line him up. And now we can get this hand to go all the way back. Look at that, look at that. You can actually get the hand to grab it. Ah, it fell out. It fell out. No. All right, there, it's back in. Okay, yeah, look at that. That's cool. All right, I think that's really neat how they size that. So anybody doing stop motion can actually have Ironhide reaching behind him and undoing his guns, and then they in your stop motion stuff you would actually plug the gun into his hand right there. All right, so just plug in the hand. Hey, plug in the hand, and then when the hand comes back out, just drop. No, that all broke apart. Okay, it works, but I screwed it up somehow. Though, interestingly enough, and I just found this trick out, the bottom of the hand isn't a 5mm port. It's bigger. That doesn't fit into the bottom of the hand. Isn't that neat? That means, but he can hold his gun by the barrel. I just think that's cool. So he can go around pistol whipping people with the back of the... You can have Ironhide pistol whipping people because of the way that his hand works. And it fits that gun very well whenever he does that. So there you go. Ironhide does come with melee weapons. He can wield his pistols as pistol whipping devices. Okay, let's go ahead and remove that from that and just put it back in your hand. Next on the agenda is, because that was the accessories, we'll talk about their feel. They're really nice. So you got this cone shape front that ends in a point, and that point is blast effect compatible, maybe. There's my blast effect box. Let's see. Grab a blast effect and grab this one. Is it blast effect compatible? It is. So they are blast effect compatible. That's cool. They have two little notches, one on each side, that allows for them to be staked into the his little holsters, and they're very solid guns. There's only the waffling there for the points. This is a solid piece. It's really nice. They went out of their way to make this guy look really, really good, I have to say. All right. Now let's talk about articulation. So his hand spins. He has a rotating hand. And it also moves down because of transformation, but that's okay. You can have his hand just kind of folded down. Yeah, limp wrist pistol. Boom, boom. Now, let's put that back together. Okay, there we go. All right. So the elbow is 90. And then we get to this. Whoa, crazy shoulder action going on here. I love the shoulder action he's got on this because of the transformation. You can get some crazy shoulder action going on there. That's neat. That's just something really cool. Raise the shoulder up. He's got 360 degrees in the shoulder. No butterfly, sadly, but it does raise up really far. And the other shoulder's the same. The head is on a very nice ball joint. It is a little stiff sometimes, but it's very good. It can look down decently, and it can look up okay. Not very far, but it can still look up. The hips, well, actually, he does have a nice waist rotation. Boom, waist rotation. And the hips are what we come to expect. The side-to-side is a little loose on the right. It's a little loose on the left, but this guy's weight is really evenly dispersed, so you don't see that much. And then we come down here to the knees, and he's got a leg swivel above the knee and the knee joint, which is also a little loose too. It is a shame. I was hoping that these would be a little tighter. And then we come down here to the foot. The foot can move up and down, and it's got a nice little hip, side to side tilt, ankle tilt. Yeah, ankle tilt. Okay, that's that. We already discussed siege ports, so let's talk about the actual sculpt work of this guy. We'll start from the feet. He's got some really nice feet. I love the way that they've managed to use card parts parts to make the entire foot. Though I really wish there was interior car parts for the bottom that weren't so painted, because this does worry me about wearing away the paint. The feet are really nice though. They have all these little turns in them and little panels. It's really well sculpted feet. Now we come up here to the knee, and we have some cool little robot vent right there. It's actually like a piece that folds during transformation, which I found to be really cool. It's supposed to, I guess, pretend to be a seat inside the car, but right there it does feel like a nice little chunk of armor, because this guy was always known for being iron-hided. Aha! Now we come up here to the side of the leg, and we got the robot kibble, the vehicle kibble kind of on the side of the leg. They do a really good job of hiding the wheel. I do appreciate how well the wheel is hidden back here. You have to pull this piece off the side to see that the wheel is folded in there. And that's really nice. I do appreciate it when they find a way to hide the wheels. They didn't even use any faux wheels. There's no faux parts here, right? And I also appreciate the no faux parts. Then we come up here to the upper leg, and as there's not much more to talk about the paneling on the side, except that it's like sidecar paneling folded over. Though it does feel like good extra armor, and I really appreciate how it wraps around the back of the leg. And then you feel back here, and it feels like there's components on the interior. Oh, I didn't turn around enough. There's components on the interiors of the legs that feel more robotic with all this folding going on back there. It's clean too. It's very clean folds. There's not anything just hanging out back there that could rattle around. This guy does not rattle. Coming up here to the skirt. Now, this skirt is one piece, sadly, though it is done in a unique way where it could have been three pieces. And there's actually some videos explaining that you could take this skirt off pretty easily. The pin there is a very easy pin to remove. And then you can take some sort of Skilsaw or something, or an X-Acto knife, and actually cut where these little notches are in the plastic on either side of that crotch plate, and you can make them into flaps. It apparently doesn't take much effort, and though it takes a little bit of cutting because you got to cut carefully. If you do it right, you can get this thing into three skirt pieces, one for the center and one for each side, so the entire thing doesn't raise up. I just wanted to point that out. I'm not going to do it myself because I don't trust myself with an X-Acto knife with something that precise, but that is still a thing you can do. Now we come up here to the upper body area, and the upper body is really cool. We got that part of the car that kind of slopes upwards from the waist area to, instead of like a tetrahedron point, it's actually a nice little slope. And then we get this nice solid windshield right here. It's just a big rectangle across his chest, making him look a little bit like Soundwave. And I always appreciated his big rectangle. It was just a big flat rectangle on his chest, and that was the thing that this guy didn't have. His rectangle wasn't a flat rectangle, and this guy's rectangle wasn't a flat rectangle. They were all at angles coming up to the body, and so those molds kind of sucked for actually having a big flat rectangle, breast area. It always reminded me of Soundwave. Like, this guy could have been something that was similar to Soundwave, at least in my own ideas about this stuff, and that's neat. So come over here to the shoulders, and of course we got some really good shoulder action going on here. But that big rectangle, we come up here, we feel around, it's all smooth, it's all folded in to be a solid, smooth surface, except for where there's these vents right around his head area. I think that's really cool. I love the vents that are right behind his head and going all back into there. Just all that stuff there. I really appreciate it whenever they do things like that and they include vents, because these are robots. Of course they're going to be hot on the inside, and they're going to need a place to vent out excess heat. So that's cool that they have that. They're not porous like us. They can't just vent their heat from a million spaces around their body. They have to do it somehow, and that's cool that they've managed to include that. And they do that all the time in these. And I love finding the vents for robot mode. They're always great, and I like that one's around his head. So it makes it look like he's steaming around the head, like he's he's smoking a cigar or something, I bet. Come over here to the arm, and the arm has the just the simple square shoulder that was that is. If you've seen the original TV show, you never forget these shoulders. They were simple, and of course, Ratchet had them too, but his had a little red cross painted on each shoulder. I, and which I'm really hoping they do a Ratchet with this guy, this mold. They're going to come out with a Voyager Ratchet soon, and I am going to be getting it. It would be nice to finally get a Ratchet that's a good guy. Come over here to the forearm, the upper arm. That's pretty cool. It's got some robot textures in that, but not really much else. And the lower arm has got some really nice texture work on it. Really good sculpt work there. Though there's that big gappy bit underneath, but it's not too big. They did manage to hide it a bit, so that they get a pass. They get a pass for that. They've managed to use some stuff to make that gap not so gappy. It still feels a little gappy, but it's not too gappy. And then we're going to move around here to the backpack. The backpack is stupid clean. I love this backpack. I really, really do. This is an excellent backpack. Sadly, it doesn't have a siege port, which I'm a little grumbly about. But for the most part, this backpack's neat. And it's got this cool part that folds. So you can fold the backpack out further, or you can fold the backpack up. It kind of acts as if it were to be something that has missiles in it or something, because you can fold it up like that above his head. I think that part's just something you can do whatever you want with. You can move it in all sorts of different directions, make the backpack out more, squeeze the backpack in. I play with it a little bit. I haven't really figured out exactly where this part's supposed to go, but I don't want to rub it raw on these parts either, which I'm already kind of doing by playing with it during this video. So I'm just going to leave it there. Now we're going to finally come up here to the head, and the head is this is Ironhide's head as I remember it from the show. There was something weird about the Ironhide head, and in the Earthrise mold, which we don't have transformed. Did you use Ironhide's head, Crosshairs? No, Crosshairs used his own head. Yeah, that's totally Crosshair's head. So you got a cooler head, Crosshairs, that's for sure. No, Ironhide's head is pretty cool, but don't fall. All right, cool. It is a bit bigger than it was in the Earthrise mold. You can tell that by looking at this head here for the Ratchet, which is a very similar head to Ironhide's head. The Ratchet head here isn't as bulbous or as wide. And yeah, no, Ironhide had a very wide head. It was just something he did. And I like his little mohawk at the top. I appreciate the mohawk. And yeah, that is Ironhide. It is a top-notch figure. It's stupid easy to pose. The weight of this guy is surprising. This is a weighty, weighty figure. I mean, this guy is weighty, but the Ironhide, I would say, weighs a little more. Ironhide, really? All this time, you haven't fallen on your face once, and I just did that. Well, that is the Ironhide, and I'm going to have to give this robot mode well, actually, a 9 out of 10. 9 out of 10. It doesn't get a full 10 because it doesn't have like butterfly hinges or double jointed elbows or double jointed knees, but this thing's got like toe articulation. It's got side to side. This guy is nice. He's a solid robot mode. Nothing about this is floppy. This is not a floppy figure. This is a very solid figure. It's also a weighty figure. They made it out of good plastics. And it's got some really cool places to store the guns. It comes with extra little things like that. And the articulation is excellent because, if you articulate it right, you can even articulate him putting the gun back. I really like this. And I can hear his old, raspy voice in my head right now. It's so great. Alright, guys. Well, I hope you've enjoyed today's episode and me going over and gushing about this Studio Series 86 Ironhide. It's a breath of fresh air. Everyone's just been dealing with bad figure, that Bumblebee thing, and it's so nice to have such a good solid robot, and it feels like Ironhide because this Ratchet mold here, the Ironhide mold here, This didn't feel like Ironhide when I got it. It kind of felt like iron, but it wasn't Ironhide. Like, this wasn't Ironhide at all. And so I'm happy to finally get an Ironhide. And I hope you've enjoyed today's episode. And I do recommend getting this figure. So far, I've enjoyed every part of it. I've heard some naysayers online, but those guys are talking about the paint. We don't talk paint here, because that's not our target audience. We don't mind the paint. You can color this guy fluorescent orange for all I care. I'd still love the transformation in the field of robot. Thanks for watching. And please tune in tomorrow, where I'll teach you how to transform Ironhide from Studio Series 86. Bye bye for now.